I'm Alissa, and I'm here to tell you a few things that I learned while I was doing a project last year called the Shame Project. It's a project with a little bit of history. So since 2007, I've been going to events like Burning Man and other festivals wearing light-colored cotton clothing and carrying a pack of rainbow Sharpies. And I've been going up to people at these events, and I asked them to give me some of their shame, meaning I actually asked them to literally write something on my clothes that they're ashamed of and tell me about it. I've had some pretty awesome conversations with strangers this way. People have told me about their struggles with addiction and depression and their shame about not just being able to snap out of it. One woman told me her shame at not wanting to spend more time with her dying father. Complex and dark and intense and cathartic conversations that I've been blown away by. And you'd think it would be kind of hard to convince people to have these conversations with me, but I've experienced people standing in line, waiting to give me their shame and walk away. I tell them I'm going to burn it at the end, and I do. I burn up the clothes, and it's been a really powerful, life-changing, empathy-increasing experience. So I wanted to share it, and I invited 30 amazing collaborators to help me design and build this structure at Burning Man last year. It's a spiral walkway. It's 16 feet high at the top. You walk around, and in the middle, it deposits you in this serene, contemplative space where we had a rotating army of about 20 shame collectors receiving shame. So you could come up and deposit your shame and read other people's shame and hang out for a bit. And it was a smashing success. People were there all the time. They came and they wrote their shame down. There was more business than the shame collectors could handle, so people started writing on the walls and on the pathway and on the handrails and on the fabric. And they would weep and they would talk about it and they would leave and be a little bit lighter. One guy told me after he spent a couple hours there, he and his partner spent all night riding their bikes across the desert, talking about what they could do, what projects they could tackle now that shame wasn't in their way, holding their back, and what relationships they would return to now that shame wasn't keeping them from facing them. I stumbled into this very potent thing just by wanting an excuse to have good conversations with strangers. But it turns out that this is a real thing. People are studying this phenomenon of shame and what a big deal it is. And in fact, one woman in particular, Brene Brown, has been doing amazing work. You may have seen her TED Talk. She's awesome. And her research has led her to conclude that wholehearted people with fulfilled lives have the ability to be vulnerable, and that shame gets in the way of vulnerability. And the things that make shame grow are secrecy and silence. Shame is connected to feeling not worthy. And one way to defeat it is to expose it, is to talk about it, which can be tricky, so I'll go first. I was totally ashamed to stand up here in front of you guys tonight. I was afraid that I didn't have anything worthwhile to say on the topic or that it was trite. And in fact, I feel that way every project I do. I'm the artistic director of Nabunale Theater. I've produced 6 full-length plays and several short ones. I've written several. I've won awards. I've gotten good reviews, but I always come to a project feeling like I don't quite have anything to offer. So that's one. I got married last year, which was awesome. Thank you. It was also really kind of scary and hard. My partner and I went through a lot of changes in our relationship and kind of felt like we were totally failing at being the newlyweds that we were supposed to be. But when I started talking to people about it, people came out of the woodwork to say, no, the first year of marriage is really hard. And we went, oh, we're not fucking up. Okay, now we can work on our relationship. It got way better, and now we've got another adventure coming, which is super exciting. It feels a little indulgent to share like this. But what I have found is that when I talk to people honestly about what I'm struggling with, they'll thank me. And I think it's because when you talk to people about what you're struggling with, they have permission to be struggling too, and can identify that that actually gives them some power. And ultimately, that's the secret of the Shame Project. Whatever benefit the people who deposited their shame got, the shame collectors are actually the ones who got to see an enormous breadth of humanity and acknowledge that we are all in this together. We're born not really knowing how to wipe our own asses, right? So potty training is a huge triumph. And I don't see a reason that should change for anything you learn your whole life. Everything that we do that's worthwhile was hard. And so in our struggles lie the seeds of our greatness, and there's no reason to hide them. In fact, we should celebrate them. So it gets easier the more you talk about shame. So here's a party game. Next time you meet someone, instead of asking what they do, try asking them what they're afraid of. It's a good way to get into a conversation about shame. And you might find you have something in common. Ultimately, the goal is to acknowledge that we're not the weak monsters we're afraid we are, but actually human and powerful and imperfect and beautiful because of that. At the end of Burning Man, we burned the structure in a cathartic ritual. I don't imagine that it magically wiped shame from everyone who deposited it here, but it was a declaration of freedom to be the powerful and flawed human beings that we are. Thank you very much. Come talk to me if you like this work.